Welcome to Newcastle Borough Council's Cabinet meeting this morning. Welcome to officers and members of Cabinet joining me, and also to two of our members as well joining us in the public gallery. Introducing our Cabinet members today, we've got Councillor Craig Skelding, Portfolio Holder for Leisure, Culture and Heritage, Councillor Jill Heasom, Community Safety and Wellbeing, Councillor Andy Fear for Strategic Planning, Councillor David Hutchins for Sustainable Environment. Sitting next to me is Deputy Leader and Finance Portfolio Holder Stephen Sweeney, and I'm Leader of the Council, Simon Tagg. We'll get on to our agenda. We haven't got any apologies, all Cabinet members are here. Item 2 is declarations of interest. Do we have those for any items on the agenda? Not seen from Cabinet members. Item 3, minutes of the previous meeting, which are attached on page 5 to 12. Can we agree those as a correct record? Thank you, Cabinet members. And we'll move then to our first item of business, which is the Wally's Quarry update. New format for the report this time, which I'm sure our Chief Executive will update us on. But I think, obviously, we know we have this item to Cabinet, and we have for the last 2.5 years as our first, probably more than that, for our first item. And this is our post-Christmas and New Year Cabinet meeting. And I know in previous years we've had a Wally's item at this time of year, which has been a really sorry story to tell of odours and discomfort and uproar in the community. That's not the case this time as we enter our second new year of closure. And we can talk more about that with the actions that the Environment Agency and their contractors have been taking place on the site that have got us to this good position we're in at the moment. And then we obviously look at how we preserve that for the long-term future with capping and restoration, and also holding people to account for what has happened over the last few years for a public inquiry. But I'll hand over to Gordon, who's going to introduce the item.
Great, thank you, Leader. And as you note, this is a slightly revised, slightly more streamlined version of the report. So all of the historic data remains available as set out in previous reports up to December 2025, and on request, if members or others want to see that data, that is published and available. The change is really in recognition of exactly as you've outlined, Leader, in terms of where we are in terms of complaints at this stage. And if we, as this does cover the Christmas and New Year period, as you've indicated, set out in figure 2 under 2.1 of the report, you can actually see that contrast between the nearly 400 odour complaints this time last year in January 2025, and the 2 that we've had in the last month, so covering the period up to December. So a very marked change. I think that change was recognised at the recent political multi-agency meeting where politicians received an update from the Environment Agency on activity. The Environment Agency continues to be active on site with their contractors. They were active over the Christmas and New Year period. Obviously, the site was largely shut down, but they were still removing leachate from the facility and obviously monitoring. Our officers were also monitoring before and around the Christmas period as well. We'll continue to investigate any complaints that we do have, and I think critically continue to work with multi-agency partners on defining, designing and delivering the next steps. There's still the ask to government, as was covered in the political meeting, around the resources to do this for a national level incident. So with that, Leader, I'll pause there and happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Gordon. Open it up now to questions or comments. First of all, Andy.
Thanks very much. It has to be said, this is very heartening. I mean, if you can imagine a better Christmas present really than enjoying your Christmas without the odious smells that we've had in the past. So I think it's a vindication of all the hard work that the council and its officers have put in on this thing. As ever, I mean, one has to look to the future, and we want to make sure that the future remains like this. So I'm still hopeful that we can make sure that the government does the decent thing and provides national funding for a problem, after all, that was created by national governments. And I'm also very interested in seeing a public inquiry and as to why large agencies have let our community down so badly in the past. So very happy with the news at the moment. Still think there's work to do in the future to make sure this is resolved in a satisfactory way.
Any other comments, Steve?
I would repeat and agree with everything that Councillor Fear says. The crucial question at the moment is who's going to pay for this, and we're still waiting for an answer for that, aren't we? And that's the crucial question. What I must comment though is when you look at this one on 2.1 and you see where we were last year and where we are now, it's really amazing, really. I rather like this new way of doing the reports. It's much more compact. I think it shows it very, very clearly, and that is a stark thing. That 620, and 2 years ago that'd be up all the way along now, wouldn't it? And now it's down to this. So it shows what can be done if the will is there. But now it's encouraging. I just wonder who's going to pay for it. That's the main thing for me.
Thank you, Steve. And yes, it shows when the site, whether it's operational or not, is managed correctly, which I think the operator that is the contractor for the Environment Agency is doing that. I think, as Gordon mentioned, the next step is that sort of recovery stage, and the groups and the council will play in a key part in that with other agencies. We're not the responsible agency for restoration or capping of this site, but we do have those, obviously, our powers as a regulator for the statutory nuisance, which we hopefully will not have to use. But I think it's key, and our chief executive chairing the main group on the recovery side, I think is really important, and the county will be county council, who of course got the planning responsibilities of this, for chairing the group as well, relating to those sort of matters. So I think it's everybody working together, along with the Environment Agency, who are not disconnecting from this site at the moment, which of course we need them to stay involved in this site, and then that long-term future can become clearer, the capping and restoration, and then there will be a bill to pay by somebody to ensure that this site is no longer the problem, which it has been for numerous years and has been really an issue over the last 5 or so years. So we've got that recommendation before us. We note the contents of the report. I again thank our council staff, and they're still responding to those very few complaints we get to ensure there is a record taken and going out over Christmas and New Year when necessary, and we will continue to do that. And as I say, we are central to working with our partners on the future of this, but responsibility for solving this issue does not fall to this borough council or the taxpayers of this borough. It's a bigger issue that we need to be resolved with the help of national government. All agree with the recommendations? Thank you. That brings us to item 5, which is the draft revenue and capital budget and strategies 26-27, and Steve is going to introduce this.
Thank you, Leader. This report presents the refreshed medium-term financial strategy, including the draft proposals being considered to balance the 26-27 revenue budget and the proposed capital programmes for 26-27 to 28-29. Savings and funding strategies have been identified to address a £1.599 million budget gap for 26-27 via a vigorous efficiency board process, being agreed with managers as being both feasible and sustainable, and the first drafts of these have been scrutinised by the Finance Performance Scrutiny Committee. A significantly below inflation council tax increase of 1.99% per Band D property is again proposed, as we said we would do in our manifesto when we first got into power. This amounts to 10 pence per week or less for 95% of households within the borough. The savings identified enable a continued contribution of £250,000 to the Borough Growth Fund. This will continue to enable investment to the Council's priorities, including significant investment in boosting the sustainability and the environment within the borough and supporting development of the town centre. I'm also pleased to confirm again the savings proposed do not include any redundancies. The capital programme for 26-27 to 28-29 is based on new schemes which are vital to ensure continued service delivery and assisting the council to achieve its corporate and service objectives as set out in the council plan. These schemes total £109.9 million, of which £35.1 million relates to 26-27. This includes schemes to regenerate the town centres, including schemes partially funded from major investment into the borough successfully secured by the Town Deals Fund for both Newcastle and Kidsgrove. Delivering the capital programme for 26-27 will require prudential borrowing to be undertaken. The impact of borrowing is included in the MTFS. The proposals enable a financially robust budget for the council for 26-27, both ensuring the council's continued financial sustainability and protecting services our residents value. I think the budget is an excellent budget, as I would do. It's going to be looked at again. I think coming in with a 1.99% rise in inflation of 3.5% is below inflation rise. Nobody will notice any cuts that we've made in any of the areas because they're nothing to do with it. They don't affect residents. It's all done behind the scenes. I think it's an excellent budget. I'm very happy to support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Back you up on that. And I think we have obviously seen that £1.1 million cut in funding allocation from the government, which is the backdrop to this budget, and that's over 3 years. But we're still able to, as you say, deliver that balanced budget and spend money on those services that really matter to people. And of course, you mentioned the Efficiency Board, and we've said at Cabinet here, and I've said at Council, particularly since May, that we have this big splurge from reform in the county and across the country that they're making efficiencies. We've been doing this since 2018, and we saved over £10 million on a small budget. I think the county are claiming £2.5 million savings on a £700 million budget. It was less than 0. Whatever it is. Yes, is really not cutting the mustard. We've been delivering savings and balancing budgets and keeping services going for many, many years at this council, and we will continue to do so. And that below 2%, 1.99% council tax is what we committed to the voters in 2022, and we've honoured that in 2022 and every year since, and this is the 5th year that we've done that as well. So opening it up now to Cabinet members to talk about anything within their areas relating to the budget. I think I'll bring in Craig, particularly on obviously J2 and the leisure centre. And obviously we've got the money from the government to help us to realise some savings there, haven't we, as well? And we're also doing the work there, investing in our facility.
Yeah, thank you, Simon. J2 in particular, I mean, it's shown over the last few years strong growth in membership and any funding that helps out there. The main thing is with the funding going in through the SALEX bid now, helping to cut costs and energy costs. I think the best way to, without going mega green on the issue on this, is to save money. All you need to do is save energy by not using it in the first place. And the work that's going on there, although we've had to shut the main pool temporarily, there's a minimum disruption to members of the centre because the small pool's open, the gym's open, and all the work that's going on is going ahead on time at the minute. With the storms that we've had and all this, it hasn't created any problems at all for the centre because all the first phase of the work was internal, creating safe spaces for the workers to work in. And I look forward to this project being completed because at the end of the day, it's going out of the budget and help save money for the J2 and increase profitability. And all this comes from being part of a well-run council in the borough and one that many places with sites like Jubilee 2, I think they'd be envious of this. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Craig. David.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. Yeah, as you said, all Cabinet members take part in the Efficiency Board meetings annually, and we're always looking for savings that can be made, but 100% no reductions and no cuts at all in services. For example, this year we reduced some of the bedding plans and changed to sustainable bedding plans. That cuts down the income that we spend, but a lot of residents have been commenting there's a lot more colour this year, so that's really good as well. We'll soon be starting the pet cremations at Bradwell Crematorium, which is going to bring in some income as well, and again, yeah, there's zero, as you said yourself, Leader. There's no cuts in services. It's just efficiencies, and it's something that this council is very good at. Thank you.
Thank you, David. I think also, as you mentioned, Steve, is that that massive regeneration we're undertaking, that £80 million on the back of the 50 million or so that we had from the previous Conservative government up to 2024. Also, of course, today, it was publicised by the council yesterday, but down in Parliament, there's going to be a presentation around our plans for the car park, the former Midway car park, obviously being transformed into apartments. This will be the first one, 1960 structure, the first one in Europe, I believe, that this project has been undertaken. So our partner in this project, Capital Centric, are presenting that on a national stage today, putting Newcastle on the map there. And I think big thanks to our team here at the council that have worked to get that project up and running. He's had support from elected members on this cabinet and the council in general, and I think it will see a transformation of that site. And also, again, we talked about, I think, the environmental impact. This building being repurposed instead of demolished, it could no longer be a car park because it didn't fit the standards. Obviously, it needed a lot of work done to it to make it into a modern car park. But it is strong enough. I've seen some comments on social media since we published yesterday. Well, you've closed it because it's supposed to have concrete disease, etc. And how can you? Well, no. Actually, a lot of work was done over the years and a lot of money spent to deal with that issue. But electric cars are heavier, they're bigger, and also the access onto and off Midway was not really suitable for a modern car park. So we can repurpose the building. Capital and Centre have got brilliant plans for it, and they're being showcased today down in Parliament, putting Newcastle on the map. But that is because of the investment and the work of this council to put that forward and to get Capital and Centric on board on all of the projects in the town centre to hopefully deliver a brighter future for our town, more people living and working around the town centre. Then hopefully we can attract more shops back into the town. So that's all part of these budget proposals as well. But I think thank you, Steve, for introducing them. Thank you for cabinet members for their updates, and the recommendations before us, of course, is that we note the progress on the budget as set out at Appendix 1. We note the medium-term financial strategy updates since we heard from the government before Christmas on the funding, and then the various strategies that are attached, and also that we're setting a council tax of 1.99% for a Band D equivalent property, which Steve has said is less than 10p a week, and then also that we refer this to the Finance and Assets and Performance Scrutiny Committee for their comments. Coming back to Cabinet on the 3rd of February, where we will then refer it to the council meeting where we will set the budget in February. All agreed? Thank you. That brings us to item 6, which is the scale of fees and charges. I'm going to let Steve introduce the item first, and then I've got Councillor Fox-Hewitt who wants to ask a question. So don't deal with the question yet. Wait for Andrew to ask it, Steve, and then you can come back after. But first of all, introduce the report, Steve.
Thank you. Cabinet has asked annually to consider proposals for the fees and charges to be applied during the following financial year. To propose that the new fees and charges set out in Appendix 1 should take effect from the 1st of April 2026 and remain in force until 31st of March 27. The Council has an approved charging policy which is followed when fees and charges are proposed and agreed. This sets out the criteria that should be taken into consideration when establishing the amount to be charged. Proposals made vary between minimal decreases, increases and freezes to the fees and charges for the year. When these proposals are applied to the appropriate income budgets, they fall broadly in line with the assumptions of the medium-term financial strategy.
Thank you, Steve. Ask Councillor Fox-Hewitt to approach the mastermind chair there, which you set up. And you have a couple of minutes, up to 2 minutes to speak. Thank you. And then we answer the question, and that's the end of the interaction. But over to you, Andrew.
Thank you, Councillor Tagg, and thank you for the opportunity at short notice to speak to this paper, fees and charges. It's more of a question just on priorities and recovery of costs. I understand that the fees are obviously upped periodically in line with inflationary pressures or with administrative costs. And it is a question because I'm not entirely sure, to be fair, on what is set externally rather than what's within the gift of the council. But I note within the report that there is an increase in costs in things like football pitch hire, rugby pitch hire, bowls, swimming pool hire, the gym and Jubilee 2 membership, and educational sessions at the Museum and Art Gallery. And at the same time, there's no increase in costs for things like licenses to do with gambling premises or licensed premises. So it was just a question on, given that one of the core objectives of council is for a green and healthy borough, if there is in fact an opportunity for council to shift some of the revenue raising required onto other areas, often those that can, in some cases, cause harms, and create therefore some headroom in other areas such as sports, culture and recreational opportunities for residents to remain much more accessible and affordable for all ages, and thus promoting health and well-being. So it's a question around, one, can we do that? And two, has much effort gone into balancing costs, weighting them on certain areas against other areas? Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. And Thank you, Andrew. And Steve will provide an answer and then others can comment.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Fox, for your question. We are not able to amend nationally set charges, which is your licensing, your betting, and of course we don't have any sexual establishments, so we can't charge for it. Something we don't have. We don't have the power. When you look at the report, you'll see a lot of zeros. That's why we can't do anything about it. In relation to sports charges, the tennis booking fee has recently been introduced, and we are seeking to keep all sports at an affordable level. The charges are in line with our policy and reflect both the levels of use and the fact that team games such as football and rugby can be split across a larger number of players. Thank you very much.
I'll open it up now to any questions or comments on the report from Cabinet members. Not seeing any. I think obviously moving the recommendations that we approve the fees and charges as set out in the appendix 1 to 3. Taking on board what Andrew said, it would probably be interesting if you want to come in for a meeting and discuss with Steve and our finance officer on the sports side. I think we've got those national fees which we can't obviously influence, but ahead of particularly scrutiny, it'd be good if you could get some sort of background information on those. And then obviously Steve's willing to do that, aren't you? And also Craig as well. So if we could do that, that's great. Thank you for your input. So we've got recommendation before us. All agreed on this fees and charges? Thank you. That brings us then to the Civic Pride community and empowering evaluation of activities in 2025. Obviously, we launched Civic Pride a year ago, and we did a round trip around the borough. Each ward had a session to try and kickstart Civic Pride, and we've also got a plan which is in the agenda for carry that on next year. We passed a motion at the last council to support Civic Pride. I think it got general members across the board wanting to support it and ways of improving it as well. I think that's what we need to do now. We've had our Civic Pride Fund also, which is on its last phase now of giving funding to community groups for Civic Pride priorities. So what I'm going to do now is open it up to Cabinet members to talk about what they've sort of experienced with Civic Pride in its first year and some of the advantages which we've brought forward. So first of all, I'll bring in David and then Jill.
Thank you, Leader. Yeah, I think Civic Pride 2025 was a great success. We had a really successful year, which I'd like to acknowledge. The campaign involved council staff, councillors, partner organisations, community groups, businesses and residents, which is the right thing because Civic Pride affects everyone and should include everyone. It reaffirms its commitments to the core goals of Civic Pride, creating a cleaner, safer and more welcoming borough and fostering a stronger community cohesion across our much loved borough. I'm really looking forward to us growing on the success we had in 2025, and I'm really looking forward and I'm really excited to see what comes in 2026. Thank you, Leader.
Jill.
Yeah, I mean, Civic Pride has held events in all parts of the borough and has been supported by our key partners such as the Police, Aspire and Staffs County Council, as well as local groups and schools and volunteers. So it's been quite a good all-round community involvement. There've been a wide range of activities such as bulb planting, litter picking, for example, and it was encouraging to see all ages actively involved. I mean, I went to quite a few of the Civic Pride events, so I've got first-hand knowledge really. In particular, I was pleasantly surprised by how many young people came to the Silverdale event to have their bikes marked by the police. So it's quite encouraging really to see that they're quite active and getting involved with the police, getting the bikes marked, taking up that sort of offer when we do these events. So yeah, it's been a good first year and it's been very positive that it will continue with events being planned for 2026-27. And I'd like to give my thanks to everyone involved and particularly officers who've planned the events.
Thank you, Jill. Steve.
Yeah, if people ask me what Civic Pride means to me, and what it means to me is to be proud of where I live. I'm proud of Clayton. You'll never ever hear me criticise Clayton in any way, manner or means. I've been on this council 20 years now, and I'll never, because I'm proud of it. The reason I got myself elected is I wanted to make Clayton the best possible place it could be. I live in Clayton, my children went to school in Clayton, and I'm very proud of it. And that's my angle of Civic Pride. I went out with a few of these things like Jill did. And I was very encouraged by the response we had from all different agencies. just doing little things like litter picks, which you can never waste time doing a litter pick. But no, I'm very proud of it. I think it's been an excellent scheme, and long may it continue.
Thank you, Steve. I really echo what you said, Dan. I think a lot of our communities, no matter where they are across the borough, they're unique. The local communities cherish where they live. They've got deep roots there. The beautiful surroundings, particularly when you go to the rural area, but also in the urban areas. And there's a strong sense of belonging to the borough, isn't it? And we're trying to enhance that through civic pride and through other things we're trying to do, like protect the future of the borough from local government organisation. But I think when it comes to civic pride, it's more than just clean streets and tidy gardens and all those types of things. It's about creating that shared commitment to the local environment as a whole and celebrating heritage in our villages, in our towns, our high streets, and etc. Working with parish councils, the council staff, the county council staff, local police, Aspire, and all of the local organisations, Support Staffordshire, for example, as well, are heavily involved in this. And we can hopefully do remarkable things if the community works together towards those initiatives. And as has been pointed out, some of the things that were done on civic pride across this borough, involving all them groups, including school groups and community groups, kids got involved, young people. It's tackling litter, fly tipping, and also making sure the streets in our countryside are clean, enhancing our park and open spaces, making them safe and enjoyable, and also that heritage and celebrating that heritage and historic character of the many parts of our borough as well. And also supporting local initiatives such as the planting schemes Jill talked about and other community events. So how can people really get involved? We want more people to get involved. I think that was something we discussed at council before Christmas, is that we need to get that message out there how people can be involved. They can join the community cleanup days, whether that's a day when community pride is in your area or whether it's generally. Again, the council can help on setting those groups up. Volunteering for planting projects. We know that, for example, daffodil bulbs have been planted across this borough again this year and have been for many years. Get involved in that. Reporting issues to the relevant council. You don't really have to leave your home to do that. You can go back home, report through the council's online reporting line for fly tipping, litter and problems with the waste and recycling if they come up. And also the county council through its report it for flooding, highways issues and highway trees. And also, if there's a scruffy bit of land near you, why not adopt that and tend to that, or remove the weeds out of the gutter outside your house, because the county council don't do that so much anymore. Not necessarily because they don't come out and weed spray. It's because the type of weed spray over the years has been banned so much that actually it washes off if there's any rain and isn't actually as strong as it used to be. That's why the reason the weeds are in the gutter. Or support those local events, which we have all over the borough, whether that be in our villages or towns. So I think working together, we can install civic pride, spread that across the borough. And I think what we need to do, and what I've asked officers and what was part of our motion, and which came clearly through full councillors, we need to publicise this more and get it out and about. I see a lot of schemes that councils are doing and that organisations and businesses are taking part inside this borough, and we also see it from outside, come under the badge of civic pride. I think we need to bring them all together and put them under the badge of working together to help our communities and take them forward to a cleaner, brighter, more united future. So recommendation before us are pointed out in the report, and I will just read those out now when I get them up on my computer. And that is, we receive the report and note the achievements in 2025. Formally adopt the civic pride strategy for 25-28. Now the consultation has been concluded, and that sets at its centre that working on community pride with all the organisations that we work with through the Newcastle Partnership, as I've pointed out the names of them earlier, and consider additional resource requirements. We will do that. We will also be running our civic pride fund again the next financial year. And also that we refer this report to the Health and Wellbeing Environment Scrutiny Committee for their consideration and views and input, because obviously I know members had a lot of input to make when we discussed it at council. Let's put those into our future action plans going forward through that committee when it meets in March, when it receives this report. All agreed? Thank you. That takes us then to item 8, which is the Borough Tree Planting Strategy Phase 7 and the update on protection of green spaces within the borough. And David's introducing this report.
Yes, thank you, Leader. Over the last 5 years, the Council has delivered the first 6 phases of the Borough Tree Planting Strategy, planting some 24,000 plus trees over 37 sites. We're now planning the phase 7 in the winter of 25-26. And then as well as that, community groups have planted some 9,000 plus trees themselves, included in the Britain in Bloom Plant a Tree scheme. So the good news is that over the last 6 phases and over the last 5 years in total, 34,065 trees have been planted in our much loved borough. Now, on the phase 7, we've chosen sites across the whole borough again: Bathpool Park, Bircham Wood Country Park, Crackley Recreation Ground, Queen Elizabeth Park, and so on. Trees we've chosen include silver birch, hazel, beech, and my favourite, the wild cherry. The wild cherry tree gives very early spring flowers, which provide an early source of nectar and pollen for the bees. The cherries are eaten by birds such as the blackbird and the song thrush, as well as eaten by mammals such as badgers, wood mouse, yellow-necked mouse, and the dormouse. The foliage is eaten by caterpillars of many moth species, including the orchard ermine, the brimstone, and the short-cloaked moth. So this tree planting strategy kind of touches into one of the agenda items later, which is the nature recovery. So again, they're all linked. It is the intention with the Borough tree planting strategy moving forward that members will continue to be invited to put forward a list of sites within their areas that are in Borough Council land ownership to be added to the long list for future planting. And as well as the tree planting strategy, this item on the agenda, just to give Cabinet a little bit of an update on where we are with protection of green spaces. In May 25, Cabinet approved a schedule of approximately 80 sites to be classified as fields in trust, which gives the green space protection in perpetuity, so they can never be built on. Since that time, a further 17 sites have been applied for, and 5 sites are currently being finalised for submission to the charity. So this is really good news for protecting our green spaces in the borough. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, David. Yeah, I think the tree planting programme we've initiated over the last few years, I think, is securing long-term environmental recreational impacts. I think for residents, we've got the 850 Lyme Forest, haven't we, on the edge of Lyme Park, formerly Kiel Golf Course. And this latest phase will push that even further. You've pointed out the number of trees already planted and those within this phase. And again, cherished green spaces, which you've talked about, protecting those. And we're doing that through these proposals as well. And also having that environmental benefit and the carbon reduction to be part of our sustainable environment strategy. So all for this, and great to see it moving to its 7th phase. And I'll open it up now to Cabinet members for any comments. Steve.
Nothing much to say, apart from the fact I think it's absolutely super. Tremendous strategy.
Short and sweet. Anybody else? No? Okay, so thank you, David, for introducing that report. Recommendations are that we obviously endorse the next phase of the planting scheme across the borough, and obviously agree that the authorised to make the bids for some funding externally also to help us with our tree planting, which we brought in over a number of years. We've also got a line in the budget here for also tree planting as well as we have in previous years. And then approve the new planting sites, which we've included in the report outlined by David, and then note the progress on the fields and trust applications for the selected sites. And of course, we have today finalised and submitted the applicants bundle over the village green status in Sandy Lane, which will be coming to an inquiry in this room later in January. So look forward to reporting that hopefully back to Cabinet in future months on a successful village green application to join others in the borough which have got successful green applications over in Repton Drive, Winchester Drive, Clayton Field as well. So all agree with the recommendations? Thank you. Next item is progress on the Council's Sustainable Environment Strategy and Delivery Plan. Davey's introducing this.
Yeah, thanks again, Leader. This item is to provide Cabinet with an annual review of the delivery plan forming part of the Council's Sustainable Environment Strategy and Delivery Plan. The Council adopted its original Sustainable Environment Strategy in December 2020. The strategy was refreshed in 2024 and approved by Cabinet, I think, in June 2024. The Sustainable Environment Strategy Delivery Plan is governed to be reviewed now every 6 months to ensure that this is a living document and it's always relevant and with developed actions and progress updates. If we look at some of the progress that we've achieved in recycling and waste, the Council is fully compliant with the Government's proposal for simpler recycling and has started to collect flexibles and cartons 2 years ahead of deadline. And we're the only one in Staffordshire to achieve this. We now have a new fleet of 17 refuge collection vehicles fitted with electronic bin lifts to reduce the noise. And the bin men do arrive at the depot at 5:30 and they're normally out on the road by about 10 to 6. So if we've now got 17 refuge collection vehicles that are a bit quieter, I'm sure the residents will give that a thumbs up. We've adopted phase 2 and now phase 3 of the grassland management strategy. We've gained 7 Green Flag awards. We've changed the Queen's Gardens to perennial planting, which again will give us some nice colour in the winter. And as we mentioned earlier, we're now on phase 7 of the tree planting strategy. So I think everything's looking good for our development plan. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, David. Open up to any comments from Cabinet members. No, I think for me, obviously welcoming the strategy update. We will go now to the scrutiny committee, will it or not, for a view on that. And I think steady as she goes on the plans, which we agreed a couple of years ago as part of the strategy. And of course, we talked about the green space impact, the tree planting, etc. We talked about J2 and the money that's been brought in there, which Craig mentioned earlier. So I think steady as she goes on this strategy. It's not mad green strategy. It's actually a sensible, sustainable approach to matters that people actually see a difference on, with more tree planting, better preserved green spaces, etc. Bringing back nature, which of course is the next item on the agenda. So really welcome this and the work that's been done by the team under Andrew Bird, our officer, and with your support, David, as well, going forward on that. So recommendations before us is that the Cabinet notes the progress of the delivery plan associated with the Council's strategy, and also asks, obviously, the Scrutiny Committee to look at it as well and give views back on the updates included. All agreed? Thank you. So our next item is the support for the draft Staffordshire Local Nature Recovery Strategy. I'm leading on this on behalf of the Council and have been attending the steering groups for a good few years and in various roles, but now as the Borough Council's representative on them. So really pleased that we are today endorsing the draft proposals. I think it could have come sooner. I have wrote to the new leadership at the County Council to say that there was a 6 or 7 month delay when we had planned to bring it soon after the May elections. I think cracking on with this is really important. It ties in well locally with what we agreed as a council, I think unanimously a few years ago, which I brought for the Nature Recovery Declaration, and that's really central to the local nature recovery strategy we're bringing forward. Of course, it's the statutory accountable body for the local nature recovery strategy is the County Council. It covers the whole of Staffordshire, including the city. We have our small part to play here, and our officers are engaged with the local nature recovery strategy team at the County Council to ensure that we're doing our part. But one of the things which I would like to see is that the Borough Council does continue to monitor and develop its own plans, particularly as we may not have the buy-in from the County Council we used to have on nature recovery since the new administration came in. So that's my sort of opening remarks on the report before us, and I'll open it up to any comments. I think probably David first.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. In the strategic priorities section of this report, 1.13, I'm really excited. It says that it's going to expand, buffer and improve wildlife habitats, which is a great thing, increase species and habitat resilience by connecting habitats together to make it easier for wildlife to move through the landscape, and reduce pressures and threats to wildlife and habitats by tackling pollution, invasive species, disease, and unsustainable practices. So yeah, what's not to like about this report? And nothing. Really good report. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you. Any other comments? No. So just we'll move to the recommendations. I think it's, as I say, welcome that we move forward, and we've got a strong track record in this borough. Obviously, with the first, as I said, the local nature recovery motion, which we agreed the declaration was the first council in Staffordshire to do that back in November 2021. We've just seen our sustainable environment strategy, which has got all of those key components already in there, which are part of our local nature recovery strategy. And we've also, as we've talked about in the previous item to that, increased the tree canopy in the borough by over 30,000 trees over the last 5 years. So I think we've got a good track record, and I think what we really need to see, and I think scrutiny will ask for this, is that sort of borough focus on this as well, given the lack of focus I feel from the county council's new administration on nature recovery. So recommendations are before us there, is that we confirm the council's support for the development of the local nature recovery strategy for Staffordshire and Stoke-on-Trent, and respond to the consultation on the draft strategy as set out in section 2, which we endorse in the report, and adopt a model for delivery for the specific plans for the borough of Newcastle-under-Lyme, which talks about that local focus. All agreed? Okay, thank you. That now brings us to item 11, which is in David's portfolio, recycling and waste service operational staff structure development. David.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. This report talks about putting recycling and waste in the department on the same kind of footing as street scene. Now, it's now over 5 years since the council introduced its current recycling and waste collection service, which has resulted in significant improvements in the service delivery and health and safety culture within the service. Initiatives to improve the service further centre around workforce development and improving the health and safety culture within the service. So we plan to bring in 4 supervisor posts within the recycling and waste team, which, as I said, will then align them to the same team to the same structure as the street scene team. This will be funded through the extended producer responsibility payments. This year, we're due to receive approximately 1.2 million, and the same figure is now earmarked for next year as well. So I think this is a good plan to bring in 4 neighbourhood managers on a slightly higher grade, which will give the workforce a career progression. So it's a win-win for everyone. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, David. Any comments from cabinet members? Steve.
Just one, really. I think when you see the words offering career progression, I think is a vital thing, and it's to absolutely applaud it. Thank you.
Yeah, I back you on that, Steve. I think, and David's report here, and the officers for the work they're doing on this, and I think it's. We talk about the efficiencies we do. We talk about improving services, and this is really helping us to do that through the structure and development of our staff that could do such an excellent service, whether that's in the waste recycling service or in all the services that are frontline facing this our residents and providing services. And I think at this point, David, it'd be good to just thank the staff for their operations over the bit of a snow blitz we had, didn't we? Particularly, I think for us, it was the Sunday and Monday and probably into Tuesday as well, when we had almost 4 inches of snow in the borough, didn't we? We seem to have ducked the storm wherever it was, but at the end, we'd only got a little scattering, which was gone the next day. But I think for those first couple of days, obviously it was very dangerous to be out there. And once they started up again, it was a dangerous job with those massive vehicles. And thank you for the understanding of the public. But I think we managed to, more or less catch up with the collections so that people had a collection within the week as well. So thank you to the teams on that. Do you want to say anything further on that, David?
No, just everyone worked really hard. We had the managers and we had some supervisors out as well as the drivers and the loaders. So it was all hands on deck, and I'm really proud of the team.
And I think you would have been out there, David, if it wasn't for your broken foot, which you've got there in plaster. I'm sure you'd have gone out as well, but you didn't do it in the snow, did you? You did it well before Christmas. So thank you again. If you could pass that on, Andrew, to the staff and managers on that. So recommendation before us is that we approve the funding for the creation of those supervisor posts as set out in the report to fulfil the requirements for the resources and energy strategy. All agreed? Thank you. That brings us then to our item 12, which is future delivery of financial wellbeing and debt advice service, and Jill's introducing this.
Okay, thank you. The Financial Wellbeing and Debt Advice Service provision expires at the end of March this year and will have to be re-procured so that residents of the borough are able to access advice and personal support. I endorse the recommendation that approval is given by Cabinet to commence the re-procurement process, and also that a 6-month extension to the current contract that Citizens Advice currently provide is extended so that the service is maintained and residents continue to have a local service. This service enables residents to access debt advice, budgeting advice and IT support, as well as early intervention to reach residents at a timely stage to prevent escalation of issues. So it's very important really that we make sure that service continues while we're going through the re-procurement process. I ask that Cabinet approves the report and recommendations as published.
Thank you. Open it up to any comments. Steve?
No particular comment apart from it's a worthwhile service, and I think it's something we should continue.
Okay, and I think a very important one, seen as people are facing, higher bills again and etc. And I think this is really important that we provide that debt advice. So it seems as if we're almost back to, post-COVID and the financial issues people had then, or even further back in the financial crisis. Of course, I would say it's the government's fault, of course, but there are also other circumstances that are involved as well, aren't there, which we know about, energy costs, etc., which are still very high. That are affecting people, and the cost of living pressures haven't gone away. So this will be really important. Thank you for that, Jill. The recommendations are in the report. Do we all agree? Thank you. That brings us then to our next item, which is the local government elections 2026. People will be aware that obviously the government just on the eve of Christmas announced that they were offering councils the option of cancelling elections that were involved in local government reorganisation. As you will have seen, I came out quite quickly and said that we didn't think that was acceptable. We thought the elections should go ahead. Again, we're not passing judgment on what others across the country are doing, but I think what I've seen since then is a lot of councils have come out and said, yes, those elections should go ahead. So we were asked to contact the government if we wish to cancel elections by the date of the 15th of January. We're not going to do that, but we are going to write a letter to say we wish the elections to go ahead and see no reason why they shouldn't. I mean, for me, obviously, I come out pretty early, and I think our new kids on the block, the Reform, were then writing letters to me asking me to, make sure you. And I went back to them and said, well, look at my statements already, and I think elections should go ahead. And this will be the 3rd year in a row that I've actually stood for election. 2024 would have been the general election. Last year would be the county election, and then this year is the borough election. I think in this century, 6 years of it, I'm the one that stood election more than anybody that's probably still alive. So I'm not going to be running away from elections. So I think my response to the Reform councillors, put them back in their box over that. And I think we will obviously be writing to the government ahead of the deadline just to make that clear that we feel elections should go ahead. There's no reasons why they shouldn't. Preparations are underway, and thank you to the Chief Executive and the elections team who are very efficient in this council on preparing for them. We have parish elections on the same day anyway, no matter what, so the money savings would be minuscule, and the work savings also minuscule because of the across most of the borough we have parish areas. So I think it's a no to the government, and I would urge, I believe there are other councils in Staffordshire which have elections, Tamworth and Cannock. They only have 3rd elections. I think they should go ahead with those elections as well, because democracy matters in this country. And I think what we've seen, a mass cancelling of elections is just not in one of the things which we do in this country. And lastly, I would say, again, the future of local government organisation is still not certain on the dates. It may get pushed back. So if we were to have no elections this year, there's no guarantee that there will be elections next year to the new authorities, because the government may not be able to keep that time slot, which we've seen in those elections cancelled last year. They're now coming back and trying to postpone the elections again because they are not moving forward with their LGR proposals in those areas which were supposed to be in the forward tranche of this. So no from Newcastle. We'll carry on as we are if the government allow us to, and that's where our letter will flavour will be to the government back on by the 15th of January. But I'll open it up now to comments. Andy.
Thanks very much, Leader. Yes, as ever, something that is smuggled in at the last moment. We've seen that before on major legislation, but I entirely endorse your approach. Democracy does matter. And this is, as I see it, nothing less than another part of what it's very hard not to see as a coordinated attack on basic freedoms in this country engineered by the government. We've seen attacks on one's right to jury trials. We've seen the attempt to postpone elections to make sure that we get the result right. We've seen the attempt through rejigging local authorities to try and make sure that the votes come right in that respect at all. This is quite disgusting, cynical behaviour by the national government, in my opinion. We all need to take note of it, and we all need to think very hard about what direction they wish to take our country in. And we are right to stand up to this and say, yes, we are proud of our record. We have nothing to hide. We are able to defend it, and we don't want to jig it for a time when we think we might get a nice result.
Thank you, Andy. Steve.
Thank you, Lee. I think Andy has said everything I could possibly say. Is this forced local government reorganisation? It's an absolute disaster. We know that. It's not going to save money. It's not going to give better services. Again, we know that. And the idea of postponing democracy and putting off for another year is just abhorrent. I think absolutely agree with you entirely. We should do it as is.
Okay, thank you. No other comments. I think just on the back of what Andy said, of seems to be the drive of this government to be in the direction you said, Andy. I think we have the current Prime Minister who spent 2 years, didn't he, between 2016 and 2019, trying to block the biggest democratic vote in this country with the blocker parliament. He was centre of that, wasn't he? And now he's Prime Minister, he's just carrying through those types of things, including probably trying to reverse that and get us back into the EU by stealth. So yes, thank you for your input, and I'll be working with the Chief Executive to ensure we get those comments back to the government in time for that deadline. That's the recommendation. All agreed? Thank you. That brings us then to the forward plan next, item 14, I believe. Yes, and if we go through the forward plan as we do, we've obviously dealt with all of the January meetings agenda items today. Looking forward to February, we have an update on local government reorganisation. We also have the Q3 finance performance report, approval of the award contract for HMS monitoring, obviously the budget coming back to us as well, Wallace Quarry update, and also irrecoverable items. And then in March, in March, the recoverable items, and the other item at the moment is the Wallace Quarry update. More will come in the future. So do you agree the forward plan? Thank you. That takes us to urgent business. Don't have any. We've obviously had a speaker at Cabinet. We haven't had any other requests to speak from the public, etc. So we do have a confidential item, which is the trade waste fees and charges, which for commercial reasons are confidential. So I move item 16 that because of that, we resolve that the public be excluded from the meeting during the consideration of that report, because it's likely that there will be disclosure of exempt information as defined in the paragraph 1, Schedule 12A as amended of Local Government Act 1972. All agreed? Thank you.